intelligent in. I think I'm skipping something without my notes. We all have different ways that we think about things. Okay, he had 8 originally and morphed it into 9 different areas that we can be intelligent in. You don't choose one area and say I'm intelligent in this area, and that means the other 8 I'm the opposite of intelligent in. We all have something in each of those areas, but we have strengths. We have areas that are strengths. But when people tried to take that and put that right into learning styles and say, okay, one of the multiple intelligences is spatial awareness. So someone who's spatial, then they'd be like, oh, great, that means they must be, visual or kinesthetic or something. Let's say kinesthetic. And that's how they're going to learn. And they're back to putting them in a hole to learning one way. Just because your brain thinks in that way most often doesn't mean that's how you're going to learn every topic every time. So the main thing that I wanted to start with tonight is to make sure that you realize that we're not going to try to put you or your Pathfinders into one. Please don't even try to choose like I am auditory, I am visual. That went away in the 70s with some other things that needed to go away. Let them stay away. Don't bring that back. I'm going to go look at the next end of the papers.
I have my own microphone now. The light bulbs here. Yes, there were 8 representing those original 8 learning styles, but also a light bulb coming on, whether it's in the classroom or gathered around a table with your unit. There's not a whole lot better motivation for you as an instructor or a teacher to have that light bulb come on in the kids' eyes. I teach 6th grade homeroom at Cascade Christian Academy, so I have students in 6th grade, 7th grade, and potentially 8th grade come through my classroom. And just this week, there was a girl sitting there, and we were having this discussion, and I had to come back 3 different times with a different approach, but then all of a sudden her eyes just got big, and it was like the light bulb came on. And there's nothing, for a teacher or for you as an instructor in your honor classes or teaching investiture achievement to see the kids get it. Hey, this is cool. And they're engaged. And so when we're talking learning styles, and as Jeanetta's going to be handing some stuff out to you now to take a look at, the idea is an engaged learner. An engaged learner is going to learn better. They're going to be less of a behavioral issue, and you're going to have a lot better time and a lot more enjoyable time teaching them.
So what I was just handing you, and I'm sorry if the font is too miniature. I tested it on some people, but since then I've heard those people must have had very good eyesight. These are the 9 different types of intelligence. And remember that we're not saying someone has one. In fact, the guy that invented this or thought up this plan said we all have all. Okay? There's intrapersonal, understanding yourself, being able to look in and say, how am I feeling right now? Knowing what you need in a moment, being able to say, this is how I feel, and this is what I need to do about it. Then there's linguistic, which is finding the right words to express yourself or what you mean, being able to get across your idea to someone else.
I'm not linguistic.
Everyone has every single one of these, dear.
Right.
It's okay.
That's not my strongest one. But there's bodily kinesthetic, okay? Coordinating your mind with your body. This is your child that's got to get up and be active and moving to get the learning process to be functional.
And interpersonal. So intrapersonal was looking in. Interpersonal is looking out. How do they relate to others? How do this person is going to be very intelligent about how other people feel. They'll be able to feel empathy. They'll be able to figure out what other people are going through and find a way to connect with them at some level.
Then there's existential. Existential is tackling the questions of why we live, why we die, why are we? This is a big one for Pathfinders because this is where religion falls in, okay? What is the existence of us? What does it mean? Who is God? Where is God? What is God? And that's going to be a big part of what we teach in Pathfinders.
Now, quite possibly one of my favorite ones. Yay, logical, mathematical, quantifying things, making a plan, making a hypothesis, figuring out how things work, arguing about it. Well, it says proving them. I sometimes argue about it. But proving how something adds up, making it work. That's where I like the light bulb to come on my students' math class.
It's only arguing until you've proved it. Once you've made the point,
And it's teaching.
then it's teaching. And then there's musical, discerning sounds, their pitch, their tone, rhythm, timbre, how do you pronounce it?
Go with the linguistic people for that.
Oh, yeah. Musical, okay? So that's your kids that definitely have an ear for music. That's not me. Oh, yes, I have a little bit of it, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Then there's naturalist, someone who understands living things, and they're able to read nature. To me, this is the person that's comfortable with nature. They like to be out there. It feeds them, and they just love it. I don't know. You've seen those kids that just, to be outside is a different kid than when you try to bring them in and sit them down, right?
And the last one is spatial, visualizing the world in 3D. Again, the little picture there, you've got somebody that's got to get out and experience it. For me, I kind of relate to this. Somebody asked me when was the last time you read a book. It's hard for me to complete a book. I'd rather go explore and make my own adventures than read about somebody else's adventures.
You can ask him the last time he started a book. That's more recent. So what are we going to do with these in Pathfinders? We have it built in, right there. You've got, I don't even know how many honors because I'm sure it's changed since I put that picture on there. We have honors, we have so many honors in so many areas. We went through and found at least 2 honors for every single one of those. So does anybody see something that would apply to one of those areas?
Look at your little card that you're holding.
Musical, okay, we've got the music honor there and hymns, which I don't have that honor, I need to get it.
Excellent.
What do you see for spatial? Okay, bodily kinesthetic, we've got physical fitness and skiing.
Robotics is logical, mathematical.
Yeah, robotics there. The other one for spatial I had, whoever said one of the spatial ones was engineering up there. I hadn't seen that honor before, but
What about tumbling and balancing? Is that for
that's not
kinesthetics?
tumbling and balancing.
Oh,
It's your physical fitness honor.
I need to learn my honors better.
Yeah.
I don't have that one yet.
Yes,
That's good.
actually, that one isn't called preaching, but what is it? It's preaching with a Christian perspective of, I don't remember. It's a longer one. I'm going to go look now. The Christian art of preaching.
Over here we had peacemaking. And what did you say you thought it would? And
Crisis intervention, yes. That's the person that's hugging the crying person. And those are kind of intrapersonal honors. You have to look into yourself. It asks you, how do you feel about this? Crisis intervention is also interpersonal because it's obviously helping other people, but you have to look into yourself to do it. Stewardship is the other one that I thought they have to look into themselves because it asks them, how do you spend your time? And are you spending your time wisely? Questions like that.
we had somebody joining us online mention that the reef honor there was for naturalist.
Yes.
Yeah.
I put it there because it's so pretty.
Wilderness living, too. Was that the one in the bottom corner?
Yes.
Did anybody say wilderness living? That's a good one.
And the people that are like crowded around the cross with the musical notes, I hadn't seen that one before. It's a praise and worship honor.
Does anybody have that honor? New one to work on.
And physics is the other mathematics one. Yes, orienteering is very spatial. And the existential ones were praying up at the top, and then the preaching. So I always have people say, when we've taught this class before, they're like, yeah, well, the honor part is the easy part. We obviously know that if we have lots of kids and we do lots of different types of honors, yes, kids are gonna have different areas of interest. They're gonna have different areas where they shine, different areas where they're so involved and they love it. But what about investiture achievement? Because that's the one that's actually hard to get kids involved in, and so that they love it and actually feel like they are motivated to do it with something besides me telling them to do it. And it can be hard sometimes. They do have all these areas built in, and if you look at those and compare it to your list, we actually have a pretty good variety of areas that we're working in. So at least one area of your book is going to be something that a kid is interested in, that they are intelligent in, and that they're going to really shine in. I'm sure you can see the obvious connections there for some of them, yes? Making friends, it's going to be interpersonal, health and fitness. Okay, we got nature study for the natural one. Whoa, didn't mean to click that. But sometimes there's something like this. This is from Ranger. Memorize the 10 Commandments in Exodus 20, verses 3 through 17. And this will come later in a different class for a different group. You won't get to hear my awesome thoughts on this. But sometimes I've heard people say, oh, that's just too hard. And there's no way my Pathfinders are going to memorize that many verses. So I'm just going to have them read it. I'm going to call it good. I'm sorry, but if your kids are Rangers, they can probably read. And so they read that, and it says memorize the 10 Commandments, and then you check it off when they've read it. And then the next day, they want to cheat on something else, and they wonder why you're irritated at them for trying to cheat on something else. Not to say that there aren't times when we need to appreciate the spirit of the requirement, because some requirements are kind of crazy, sometimes difficult, sometimes almost impossible with your group. But as much as you possibly can, I find it very important to stick with what it says, so your kids see that you find this important, and that you're not going to just bend the rules whenever you want and then expect them to toe the line. That's in my discipline class, though, so I won't go farther into that. But how can we do this? It's not really fun to sit and memorize for some kids, right? It's going to be hard. So...
Well, Janetta, isn't that when we just say, this is your assignment, do it at home?
Yes, that works really well, right? They come back the next week and it's perfect, word for word. Yeah, that's how my Pathfinders are. So now this is going to be your job. Anybody born in January? 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, great. Can all the January people go back with June Cross? And you're going to figure out how to memorize the 10 Commandments in Exodus 20, verses 3 through 17 with a naturalist perspective. Go ahead. That's June Cross back in the corner. She's like, why did I come in here? And February people. Nobody? Oh, we got one. Anybody else? March. Okay, so February and March, if you want to come up in the corner, and we're going to have you do musical. Well, there's someone else too, or she can come over with them. April. Great. You two guys want to get together, and you are logical mathematical. That's a little bit tough for this one. What did I just say, April? Yes, May. Yay, we have enough May people. You guys want to get together somewhere? Roland, they're both over here, so you have to come over here. You guys are doing existential. If someone has an intelligence in an existential area, how are you going to get them to learn this so that they enjoy it? It's May. June? No. The month of June? You're doing great. The month of June? July? Oh, wait, four July people. Where do you guys want to go? Back there? You are interpersonal, please. And August? 2 of you. So maybe come over here since no one's over here yet, please. And figure out a bodily kinesthetic style of teaching here. Great. And then September. Tara Jean. And October. No October or we're gonna have a lot all in one month all of a sudden. November. So maybe we'll do September and Tara Jean, can you come over here? I don't remember your name, I'm sorry. Rebecca. And you guys are linguistic. And then you two that are left. I think so. Interpersonal? Yeah.
Anybody who's left.
Oh, you're December. There are 3 left. Interpersonal? Okay, you got this. These are intra. You are inter.
It'll take about, 10 minutes? Less. About 10 minutes to plan something of how to teach this.
Be
Those-
creative.
Those of you joining us online, you're welcome to pick one of those that you see, or the one that we didn't assign was spatial. So take the challenge of using spatial skills to teach this 10 commandment requirement. Some of the groups are ready to present their ideas. Some of you are still working. Just take another minute, and if you're not finished, you don't have to go first. All right. You have an option of telling us your plan or demonstrating it. I will go first. My wife tasked me with the spatial since nobody was assigned that one, except our friends online, and not able to voice their ideas, so I will voice my ideas. Visualizing the world in 3D. So here's my idea. We're going to get a large amount of clay, and the Pathfinders are going to form a life-size model of the 10 Commandments, and then they're going to etch the 10 Commandments in letter for letter. And then, to help them remember what each 10 Commandment means, they're going to mold to the side of the 10 Commandment model a something that symbolizes that commandment for them. Okay? So if it's honor thy father and thy mother, maybe they're forming a little stick figure with a little female stick figure side by side, and that's mom and dad. And that's going to help them in the memorizing process. Or for thou shalt not kill, maybe they're molding a sword, and that's going to go by that one. So that was my idea. Which group had in? Yeah. Somebody's ready to go. I know somebody was like, yeah, I'm done. This is easy. That was you guys? You ready? Come on up. The sooner you share, the sooner we get to go to bed.
So remind us, which one were you, first of all? Musical.
We need to use a microphone because we got people online. Thank you.
Oh boy. I'm allergic to these things, by the way. So basically, we were just, commenting on how even people that don't really think that they're all that musical often can pick things up a lot quicker when they are put to music. And, remember things or remember a song that they heard just because it had a catchy tune, even if they don't, can't necessarily sing it beautifully. And so we were talking about, obviously, there's lots of, renditions already of things like this put to music that you could certainly learn. Or you could have the kids actually, especially if any of them played instruments or had any musical ability themselves, you could have them put it to music on their own so that it's something special to them because they've created it, possibly even splitting it up into, different kids doing different verses or something like that.
I like it.
Great ideas. Thank you.
So since that was musical, let's keep going around the circle now. Logical, mathematical. That was it.
So our idea started off with how Christ said to simplify it, that you should love God with all your heart, your soul, and your mind, and then to love your neighbor as yourself. So you can break the 10 Commandments down into those two categories. The first 4 are to love God, and then the last 6 are how you should love your neighbor. And so it kind of all coincides. It works out. So you just help them break it down in those 2 ways and help them through that.
Okay. Help the Pathfinders find the logic in it and why God broke it up like he did. Next, we have existential.
For ours, comes down to asking a lot of in-depth questions about the meaning or the spirit of the law rather than just the letter of it. Asking the kids, why do we keep the Sabbath? How does keeping the commandments affect our relationships with God and people, or how we go about our daily life? For lack of a better word, get existential about it.
Nice. And then interpersonal. Interpersonal. Is it them or you? It is them.
We have to do it together because it's interpersonal.
Nice.
Interpersonal. So we have to be interpersonal. Okay, we talked about talking.
First of all, you have to get them to focus. If they're very interpersonal, they're not going to focus. They're going to be chatting about this, that, and the other thing. So you have to definitely get their focus. Say, okay, now it's time to really focus on this. Maybe divide them up. Get them into different groups so they're working with each other to memorize these things.
Yeah.
Take
Yeah.
their phones away. Get it so that they're interacting with each other, because that's interpersonal is definitely that interaction.
Yeah. So we talked about like then using those devices as a tool so they can text each other, how are you doing on memorizing this? They can call each other, quiz each other. How are you doing on memorizing this? Check in with each other. Make it a project that they're doing together where they each have a team member that they're working with. We talked about sitting in a circle doing a little hot potato memorization where they're tossing a ball. When they get stuck, they throw it to the next person to help them out. And just lots of interaction, also focusing
It's
on...
a lot of fun.
Yeah, right?
Because
Make it a
interpersonal
party.
is usually about emotional connection with somebody, and that's usually a good experience. But also it comes down to why was the Ten Commandments written the way it was? That relationship with God. Why did he write it that way? What's most important? No other gods.
Yeah.
That's first. Why? Because if you have other gods, it doesn't work. So first and foremost, that's a relationship. So you divide it up into that, different categories like that, then they can understand it because they're like, hey, I know why I'm friends with, I build this relationship with, then it breaks it down from there.
Yeah, make it meaningful.
Very good.
You kind of went existential and a little logical there, though, Daniel. I don't know. Little.
Did you see what Daniel and Stacy did? I said take their phones away because in my head, eliminate that. But what they did is they took the culture of where we're at now and made it work for the Pathfinders. Instead of trying to take the Pathfinder out of the culture and force them into my culture, which is 30 years old, they put it
30?
Thank you. That was very good. Okay.
Bodily kinesthetic.
Okay, so for one of our ideas is where it has involving the mind and your body. We were thinking of making it into memorizing the Ten Commandments as a game and maybe having them play Pictionaries with it. So where they draw a picture with the commandment that it relates to.
And our other idea was charades, where they could work together, you know, with their hand motions that they make up as they memorize. Or maybe a combination of both, the pictures and the charades.
I'm noticing already that you are proving what the dude that made this said, that we all have a mixture. I was kind of teasing him that he went with 3 of them, and like there are mixes in all of these. And the combination and hitting a lot of them like this, perfect. Next was linguistic.
So we decided that we would read it and talk about what it actually means, what it means to us. And then there's word pictures, which are pretty amazing. So then associate the word picture with the verse. And then when they get really bored of that, then you get them in the circle, and everybody opens their Bible, and then one of them reads one, and then the next one reads the next, and then we just keep going around in a circle as fast as we can and see how fast they can get them all the way through, and then we just keep making them go and go and go and go and go. Because eventually, because there's never an even number of us, eventually they'll keep hitting all of it. Just drill it into them. But it'd be fun. People they're going to go so fast, they're going to make a mistake, and then boys will razzle each other, and then they're going to make it fun, and they're going to try to be a perfectionist. See? That's the plan.
I like it.
Isn't there Gene teaching Rangers?
Yeah. But I teach those boys at school, and I think we'll have to talk about. I'm just kidding. Intrapersonal. I'm December too, so I'm with you guys.
So for ours, we were thinking that since it's people like looking within instead of looking outwards, we would do it so like you're trying to make it applicable to yourself. So what does each commandment mean to you? And talk about that and explain that so that way you like understand it for yourself, and each person can have like a different opinion on what it means to them.
Perfect. Some self-reflection and applying it to your own life, exactly. And now the ones we skipped. Naturalists in the corner.
I think she needs a mic too. So we started with things that you find in nature. You shall have no other gods before me. So we pictured putting a great big rock there with 3 little ones in front of them and talking about that. Okay.
And the other next one is you shall have no other have any carved images. And you know, a Pathfinder always has a pocket knife usually on them, so we just have them carve in wood or whatever.
And then for the Sabbath commandment, we talked about showing them the fun video on the beavers. Some guy did a documentary on the beavers and how they work 6 days and they rest. They don't gather any food on the 7th. So we thought that would be helpful for remembering.
Can't remember this one.
Go to that
Okay.
one.
Next one is you shall not murder. And so it's not the greatest, but go and find like roadkill or a dead animal. So
it works.
Yeah.
They're going to remember that. Okay, you shall not commit adultery. There are animals that mate for life. So talk about those, like geese and swans, doves.
You shall not steal. We thought of raccoons because they like to steal.
Okay, you shall not bear false witness. There are birds that just make a terrible, terrible racket. It sounds like they're, telling somebody's secrets. So we talked about telling about a bird like that. Yeah. All right,
So,
that was it.
I love all the ideas. You guys have amazing ideas, and your kids will have a ton more. Mixing all the different ideas so that you have a variety, because remember, we all have all of them, even Jared. We all have all of them. We just have different areas that are strengths. So you're going to give different kids an opportunity to shine when you mix them up. Maybe not try to do all of them
So, yeah.
in one requirement, but all in the book. Am I too linguistic?
No, I just was going to ask you. We've had all these great ideas, so they're going to go home and they're going to tell their Pathfinders they're meeting Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 6 to 9 for the next 2 months to get through.
To get one requirement done.
Yeah. what is the idea? How do we take this and these ideas and present it to one unit of Pathfinders?
How do you present it to one unit? Yeah, well, you're always working, well, not always. Hopefully, you're working with one or two classes at a time, so you don't have multiple requirements going on at the same time with just you. But sometimes you're going to have more focus in one area than another. Like, one day you're going to go outside and find roadkill. And another day you're going to sing songs about it. And it might be different requirements, like I said, not just the 10 Commandment one, but try to mix it up. And you don't need to try to do all of these all in one Pathfinder night and have an 8-hour Pathfinder meeting. That's not the recommendation. No, absolutely not. No. Can you go to the next slide? Oh, I can. I lied. So.
She just wanted me to get off the stool.
If you want to move back to your seat, you can, because some of you are kind of far.
Thank you.
Not you. So I have a quick story. I hope it's a quick one. I don't know. I'll try to be quick. As Jared said, we're teachers, and I taught for only 4 years before we had our oldest son. He was born in February of my 4th year of teaching. Wonderful surprise. Messed up my plan, but it was awesome. It's okay. It was good. And so I went to stay home with Joshua. I did 1 year like that, and then I went back to teaching. And then I went to stay home again because then we had Josiah. And from then on, I was part-time until this year's my first year back, and I'm exhausted if you want to know how I feel. But in one of our schools that we worked in, no, I skipped a whole section. We've always taught together in small schools until now. This school that we're in now is a large school with lots of teachers. But until here, we've always been in 2 teacher schools with either just us, or once I stepped back, then he and another teacher. And I've always taught something. I've never been bored yet in my life, I don't think. So I often would come in and teach his music class for him.
Volunteer.
Yeah. He would play with Joshua and Josiah, take them out to the playground or something, keep them occupied, have some dad and son time, while I went and taught music so I could still feel like I was teaching, because I love teaching.
Or if we didn't have enough students, she'd make me direct while she'd play.
That's true. So one of my favorite ways to teach music is actually to teach the music honor. And then I love to do chimes. One reason I love chimes, everyone has an equal part or very close to equal. Everyone's necessary, or the song's just not the same. I love to have that teamwork that's required to do this. And I like chimes, not bells, because they're cheap. Still have to do some fundraising. So in our school where we were, we had this boy, and he was really difficult. You had him first in first grade?
I had him in first grade. Matthew was very high on the spectrum of autism.
It was very, very difficult. He had a full-time aide with him. He was someone who, if he got overwhelmed with sound, overstimulated, he was the one that would hold his head and scream, and he could scream very loud. We found one of the best things, Jared would take him in the gym, and they would just stand there where it would echo nicely, and he enjoyed that. So they would just stand there and, oh, I'm good now, and then he'd go back to the classroom. But we did lots of different things.
One thing he struggled with was sensitivity, especially eating. There was certain foods that the banana had to be just the perfect ripeness, otherwise he couldn't eat it. He had to feel pressure on his body at certain times, and so I struggled with him sitting down. He was always up and going, and he just, so to get him to stay in his seat, I decided
He liked this. Just go ahead.
He did. I made him a seatbelt. I almost said I used duct tape. I did. But I made him a seatbelt out of duct tape. So I doubled the duct tape back so that he could pull it through his seat and over top of his lap. And then it was his seatbelt. And so I'd say, it's time to learn, buckle up, Matthew. And he'd pull his seatbelt on. I said, okay, buckled, time to learn. And he would stay there until I would say, okay, you can unbuckle and leave your seat. And he liked that pressure.
He made awesome progress in the classroom, but music was torture. He would come in and we'd line up for chimes, and he'd stand there. He had F and G, and he would stand there and he would pick them up and in his ear, and then he would like feel it vibrating on his cheek as the sound died away. But once it was time for everyone to play, if I ever got him to be quiet long enough to have my introductory count, everyone start playing, he would cover his ears and under the table screaming, make it stop. And they weren't very good, I'll give him that. but they weren't that bad. And he couldn't handle it, he hated it. Half the days his aide had to take him out. He just did not like it. Couldn't stand it. I tried all sorts of things. I don't even know how many different methods I tried to get him engrossed. So finally, I had taken my music and rewritten the song so that it was all rests everywhere, except for when it was his turn. I count by measures, so like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, like that. And he could then watch for his notes, and everything else was rest, so he didn't have to look at everyone else's music. I thought that would help him. He looked at it and was mad that the music was gone, even though he hated the music being there. I tried all sorts of things. His mom said, we told him if he gets through chime class one day successfully, we'll let him play on his iPad. And I was like, well, if he loves his iPad so much, I'll give him a video to watch on his iPad. And so I took his chime part and played it in reverse so that the F was on my right so that he could watch it like a mirror and play it. His mom said he took it home and he watched it once that night. And he came back to school and he said, I know what you want me to do now. And he stood there and he played his part with 0 mistakes. None. And what shocked me is, I believe we were getting ready for Christmas at the time. When I direct, I tend to sing the counting. It's probably not helpful to anyone, but it's just how I do it. Most kids have lived through it fine. So I start, and I'm going 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, etc.
It helps me when she makes me play.
Good to know. And I finished a song, and I said, now we're going to go to whatever. And I said the next song. And he went 1, 2, 3, 4, and does his little like falsetto, make fun of me voice, and starts singing whatever song it was. And I was like, yeah, very funny, okay. So we go and we start, and I stopped everyone, and I was like, that was amazing. He was on perfect pitch. That was amazing, okay. So we finish the song, say what song we're doing next. He does the same thing, and he's on perfect pitch again. This kid ends up, later that year, he could play, I could give him, I don't even know how many chimes. He had 6 chimes for one song, which if you play is a lot for an elementary kid in 3rd grade. That's a ton. He would play all 6, no mistakes. In fact, we had to have him quit coming to music class sometimes because he was just bored because he already knew his whole part and everyone else's part, and would say to, he's in 3rd grade, to the 7th grader, like, you missed your C sharp. It was just incredible to watch him once he grasped what we wanted, once we tried a different method. We had tried so many methods. He was amazing. We had one Christmas program where we had to work on him because our church was a non-clapping church, if you know what I mean. And we would finish a song, and he did this, the first time he did it was in a performance up front. Finished a song, and we all put down the chimes together, and he goes, you can clap now. And our church didn't know what to do. They were like, a couple of them clapped, and then everyone clapped and kind of smiled, and it worked. So I worked on, during school the next couple of weeks, I said, let's not say we can clap now. We'll clap during practice, but not up front. And I said, why? Our church only says amen. Okay. So the next time, he gets up front. We get up there, and we finish our song. And of course, he says, say amen. And the whole church says amen, and he goes, and now clap. He was a character. We had a song where he played a bongo drum a wood block and 2 chimes that I couldn't have other kids cover. And he directed the group while he did that because there was a kid sick and I was playing. So he started us on our count and he counted out loud for the whole group the whole time he did that, with doing a different rhythm on his drum than what he was counting out loud. Like, incredible skill in music. I told his mom once we realized what a talent he had in music, once he figured out what the dots on the page meant. He went and got drumming lessons, and she said if she could survive them, he was doing awesome, his teacher said. But she wasn't sure how long she could survive. Just a story, just to tell you how, I mean, it was torture for him and for the class to have him in music class. It was awful. I didn't think I could teach him a thing. I felt like there were days that I was like, don't even send him to music. It's pointless. This is frustrating for him. He hates it, and then he screams, and then I have to send him out. And it shouldn't be a discipline thing because I don't want to get after him because obviously he's bothered by our music. But he needs to leave if he's like that because we can't function. And we talked about so many different ways. There are Pathfinders that can feel that way. They're just there to bother your unit. They're just there to make jokes during your worship. They're just there for whatever reason. It doesn't seem like they're there to get anything from Pathfinders. Keep trying. Try different ways. Try using different intelligence, different styles, so that you can get through to them because there's something that works for them.
Yeah, and if I take their phone away, they quit. They're done. They go home and don't come back. And I've had that happen. But still, that feeling is there. So it's not always what you think should work for them. But there is something that does work for them. And it's up to us. And maybe ask him how you should teach it. You should.
I said not maybe. Definitely ask him. Do you have a closing prayer or questions?
Yeah, it is. It's time to wrap it up. So thank you for joining us. If you want to stand with us, let's have a prayer to close our session here. Dear Father in heaven, we thank you for what we've learned. And Lord, now I want to ask as these leaders go back to their clubs and work with their young people, give them wisdom to know how to reach them, because they can all be reached. But Lord, we often need a lot of help. So please help us. Help us to have wisdom and patience and understanding on how to teach them best. Thank you, Father, and help us to enjoy the Sabbath tomorrow. Amen.